So today we're going to talk about how to edit in Final Cut Pro. And the first thing I need to say is a little disclaimer, because how I edit is different than how other people edit. Everyone's going to have their own approach, and if you look at the tutorials on YouTube, you're going to see, 50 different ways to edit in Final Cut. And my way is really based, I was doing a little math in my garage today, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. So the way I edit is based on how editing systems worked 20 years ago. And then I've just updated what I need to know in order to continue doing what I've always done. But if you talk to someone who just came into this a year ago, they may have a totally different workflow than me. With that said, I'm really fast, I'm really well organized, and there would be nothing wrong with editing the way I do it. If you get stuck, YouTube has great tutorials, and I wanted to mention another person who, when I first got into Final Cut Pro X, which 10 is much different than 7 or any of the legacy Final Cuts, I watched a guy named Rob Adams who's on Creative Live. Is anyone familiar with Creative Live? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do great tutorials. They're in the neighborhood of $100 for the lessons, but it's like 3 days of lessons, and it's just great. And I thought Rob's system was really well, so I've adapted a lot of his stuff with a lot of the stuff I did before and kind of come up with my own system. Now, one of the things when you're getting ready to edit, if you're on a really fast system like the ones we have here, it doesn't really matter. But if you're on a slower system, it's a good idea to close all the other programs. I even close close your word processor, close anything that might take up any memory, because editing video can be really memory intensive. And then you're ready to go. There are 3 terms that I want to start off by making sure we're all familiar with. And they are events, projects, and libraries. This is how Final Cut is going to organize your media. They're not altogether intuitive, because there was a time when events were called bins or folders and projects were called timelines, but the new way Final Cut is organizing your media is events, which are basically folders. If you're going to import music, if you're going to import your video files, if you're going to import graphics, whatever you bring in, you put it into an event. Think of an event as a folder. Whenever you start a new timeline, and a timeline is where you're going to be editing your video, that's going to be called a project. And then all your events and all of your projects are stored in something called a library. You're going to see this all day long as we go through, but just kind of put those names in your brain, because you're going to continue to come back to them. Now, there are a lot of things that I will use different names for, based on previous experiences with different parts of the software, but these are ones you really do have to memorize: events, projects, and libraries. And you'll see why as you go along. So let's jump into Final Cut. The first thing I like to do with a program is to simply learn the interface. And I'm going to talk about it, and then I'd like us all to just play with Final Cut, find out what all these buttons are. Even before you start to put together your video, the first thing you want to do is just to figure out what your different icons do, what all these windows do, and the only real way to do it is just to start playing. So I'm going to point them out to you fairly quickly, and then I'll let you all tackle them yourselves. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to start right over here with our libraries. When you click this icon, your library comes up. And remember, your library is what stores all of your events, all of your projects. It's what stores the video, essentially, that you're working on. Right next to it is your music. Now you have GarageBand, which I don't use, iTunes, depending on how you organize your music, you might be using iTunes. And then it's got sound effects that are built in. And then you have your text, as well as any backgrounds you might be using. Now, once you click on one of these icons to get to either your library, your music, or your text, you can then see this in your browser, is what this is called. So then you can click on your text, you can go to your various generators, and there's a bunch of them built in. And I would advise just kind of take a look and go through those.
Could you
Yes.
show me the generators again?
Yeah, it's right with the text.
It's with the text.
Text. There's titles and there's generators, right next to each other. And click titles.
Oh, okay.
And now you also see you have a window here. So if I click on, say, this piece of video and play it, it will play right here in this monitor window. I'll find one that has some movement. How about this one with the smoke? A couple more icons you might want to look at up here. You can decide how you want to look at your footage. Do you want to look at it as a list, or do you want to see thumbnails? And you can also adjust things like the size of your thumbnails, how long they are, and I often sort them by name, just as a side note. I'm going to go ahead and start a project. Again, a project is actually I'm going to start a new event. This is how I happen to do it. I'm going to open a new event. I'm going to call this Projects.
You don't start with the library?
Thank you. I will do that. So you'll see this is a library, and this library I called Editing Class. This is a library. These are both events, these folders here that are storing all my clips and my projects, and they're both under a library entitled Editing Class. And I saved that earlier. We'll go through and do that together. So if I want to start a new project, I just did that, and I have this untitled project. I'm going to call it Editing Class. I'm just going to drop a clip in there, and this is, again, we're just looking at the interface. So over here in my my window here, I can make the clip fit to the window. I can show it 100%, so I can really look at how it's how's it look, if it's in focus, whatever. Or I can shrink it way down, and sometimes you do have the need to do that.
What for? Like,
when I shrink it down is if let's say I want to, we're going to jump ahead. If I want to transform it, so I'm going to hit transform, and then I can enlarge it or shrink it or twist it around. I wouldn't be able to grab these handles if it was full size.
wow, you can change that kind of stuff.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So, one other thing I would advise is, does everyone have a piece of paper with them? If you don't, I've got some scrap paper right up there. I would grab a piece of scrap paper and I would start writing down shortcut keys, because I use a lot of shortcut keys and it's really handy, and there's a lot of them. So it'll just be a matter of just write them down when I say them, and if you need me to repeat them, just let me know.
Okay, please go over.
All right, we'll keep going down here. And speaking of shortcuts, if you want to add footage to your timeline, there are a few little icons down here you can use. I never use those, not ever, and I would definitely recommend you not using them, because adding footage to the timeline is sort of the heart of editing, and you're going to want to memorize these. So there are three big ones. They're the ones right here. This one is connect to the primary storyline. The next one is, then you can see it shows up in text when I run my mouse over it. The next is to insert the clip, and I'll show you what all these do in a moment. And then the next one is append to the primary storyline. I never use those, and those words don't make any sense to me. So, if I want to add this, there's three different ways, and then there's another one that's D, but I never use that. You can play with it if you want it. These are the three ways I do it. E means end. I put it at the end of my
You press E
timeline. E, it just goes to the end.
No
Just
control,
E. Just E, goes to the end.
Push E and it shows up.
Now,
Oh,
if,
really?
so now if I want to add it on top, well, actually, let me do something else. I put it in here. I decide I want it wedged in between. I hit W, so it wedges it in between. I've made up my own W wedge. I've made up my own little what do you call them? Mnemonics to remember it. W wedge. Command Z always undoes anything you do. Command Z is undo. Now if I want to lay it on top, if I want to lay this one on top, I'm going to hit Q. I don't have any kind of cute way to remember that, but except that it's Q. The cute way to remember is they're all right up here on the top left of your keyboard.
Where?
Top left. E puts it at the end. W wedges it, and Q lays it on top. And again, I'm recording this, I hope, so you'll have a chance to rewatch it. I'm going to move pretty quickly. Sometimes I feel like it's good just to know these things exist. Then you know what kind of questions to ask. So I'm not going to go super slow and make sure every single person has everything memorized. I'm going to move pretty quickly. You'll have heard it once before, so you'll know what to ask YouTube or ask me. So, there's these buttons. Like I said, I never use them. Memorize those keystrokes. The nice thing, if you forget a keystroke, just put your mouse over that icon, and not only does it tell you the what is it called? Am I the keystroke? Is that the word I'm looking for? The keystroke.
Hotkey.
The hotkey, the keystroke, but it also tells you what it does. I mean, it gives you this full explanation of what it's about to do. And then here you have all of your tools. Again, these are all things that I would memorize. It'll make you go a lot faster. The basic tool is your select key, A. I use that a lot. You're moving things around, you're shrinking things, you're shrinking things. You're shortening your clip, you're extending your clip. A. Your trim is T, and that allows you to trim the clip. So you're lengthening one clip and shortening the other clip simultaneously. So then you've got position, and that allows you to actually move the clip to whatever position you want it.
Just drag and drop it?
Yeah, but it's different. Remember, look how different it works than if I move this clip around with the P, and now watch what happens if I move it with the A. It won't let me go there because with the A.
A is kind of like smart mode, and P is kind of like manual, put it wherever you want.
Perfect. Yeah.
P.
A,
Yeah.
it kind of makes us jump ahead because the primary storyline obeys a certain set of rules that we haven't gotten to yet. So
And
we're
that's
kind
that
of
dark gray bar in your time.
putting the cart before the horse here.
So it's like auto.
But my select tool, range select allows you to select a range. So if I don't want that part, I can just delete that. I'll undo that. If I select this range and I want no audio there, I can just lower the audio in that part, and we'll get to that later. Either way, range allows you to select a portion of the clip or a portion of your entire project.
Wow.
So if you just want to play, that gets just too far ahead. Range allows you to select a portion. I'll leave it at that. Blade allows you to cut. So you can cut, now select, and you've now cut that clip in half, and you've got two different segments. And some of them, it's just so important to memorize A for select and B for blade right away, because otherwise, if you are cruising along, actually, let me find a clip that has some movement in it. Okay, great. So there's this bus going by, and you hate the bus going by, and you want to start right there, and you decide you want to cut right there. You would have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to delete it. Or if you know, you can hit blade, cut,
A, select,
and then delete.
click, delete.
It's just so much faster if you know the keystrokes. And there's even a faster way, and Joanna, you mentioned this. This might get a little ahead of the game, but if you are in your select tool and you just hit Command B, it cuts wherever your playhead is at.
Try
I don't-
moving your mouse over it too. You're doing that right there. Hit Command B. That's really messed with me upstairs.
Or wherever your mouse is at. So it makes it real easy because you can go Command Blade and then you're back at the select tool. It didn't actually switch to the blade tool. It just made a quick cut.
What's the symbol?
Zoom in hand I never use. If I want to zoom in, I hit Command plus. And if I want to zoom out, I hit Command minus. I do that all the time. I definitely write that down in your list of.
And you don't have to push Shift to get to the plus.
Great. All right, so we'll continue on with our look at icons. If you decide you want to transform one of your clips, here's your transform tool, and you can start manipulating the clip. A lot of people want to know how to speed up or slow down a clip. Let me find one that has some movement to it. I'm going to hit E. I'm going to put it right at the end. There we go. So now cars are moving along. Kind of boring, but well, what happens if we speed it up? Let's go 20 times faster.
It's that little stopwatch on your.
That might be a little much. Let's go. Let's just go 8 times faster. All right.
What was that? Where's that button?
It's the stopwatch.
It's a little stopwatch right here. Yeah.
You know what?
Where are you doing that?
I
Click on view.
yeah.
Click on hide angles.
And you can then drag this and make it even faster if you want.
You just drag the clip?
Nope.
Oh, okay. What do you do?
I'm dragging this this handle right here that's showing the speed. So right now it's going 1,543 times faster, percent faster. And I'm just dragging that around. I can change the speed of the clip. All of this stuff you don't need to memorize right away. The point is to go in and play. All this stuff is right there. All you have to do is, it's right on the screen. It's just a matter of.
Space shuttle. You're not going to learn how to fly in a day.
Thank you. But you can see it. And if you click on it, it's like, oh, this turns it into, now I'm going back to normal speed. And to continue on, here are your audio meters. You can turn them on and off here. Do you see where I'm clicking?
Yeah, there's two little meters next to the time code there.
Okay, these little things.
Yeah, and that turns on and off your audio meter on the right side.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to turn them off temporarily because I want to look at a couple of these icons over here. Oh, right up here, there's another icon. You can go to full screen if you want to see your project in full screen. And escape gets you out of that.
Wait.
We're going to hang on. We're going to I've only got a few more. Let me get through them. And then you're all going to have a chance to play for like 15 minutes. You got all sorts of cool transitions in here. That means, so if I want this not to be just a hard cut between these two. Quick side note, more shortcuts for you. Spacebar plays and stops your video. Spacebar plays and stops your video. It's mandatory. I like the lights a lot. In fact, I like I don't remember which one I like. I think it's light noise maybe. And so you can get like kind of a cool transition there. Do you see that? Boom. And here are all of your effects. We can go into them in some detail, but let's not do it now. Just know that your effects are there and your transitions are there. And then finally going backwards, this turns your skimming on and off. Skimming means that you can, as you run your mouse over a clip, it plays the clip. And this is another important one, which is your snapping. Snapping, it lines up with where one clip ends and another clip starts. So it snaps the playhead to the point between two clips.
Arrow, could you, for snapping, just to make it a little more clear, could you drag one of those clips up and then align it with another clip before you let go?
Yeah.
See that yellow line? That's the snapping right there. So it's showing you where it's aligning to. See how that yellow line goes through everything?
Mm-hmm.
That's snapped now to the edge, where that edge was found.
That's great.
So now those two are in a line.
That's where you mean.
That's a great example.
And then if you turn snapping off, now try to align it.
It just kind of lands where
Yeah, you could be.
I could be here all day trying to figure this out. I mean, I'd have to zoom way in. In fact, I don't even think
Kind of pulls everything towards.
I didn't think I could do it. And if you want to write it down, I use it a lot. The shortcut for snapping is N. I almost always have it on, but sometimes I'll accidentally hit N or something. You know, it happens. You accidentally hit something on your keyboard and suddenly your snapping's off. So if things aren't snapping, hit N a few times. And I do turn it off on occasion depending on what I'm trying to do. But I keep the snapping on most of the time. For now, I think a good idea that you can learn a lot about editing by just playing with what's possible. In fact, you can learn everything about editing just playing with what's possible. Essentially, once you can do everything we've just done, you know how to edit.